I want people to live. I want to live. I want there to be a cure.
Madison Russo.
Madison Russo.
Maddie Russo.
Madison Russo.
19-year-old Maddie Russo.
19-year-old Madison Russo.
You could look at somebody from the outside and think they look healthy, but you don't see that inside their body is literally trying to destroy them. You look so good. Like, how are you keeping your hair? It just comes down to my brand of chemo, which is oral chemo. I got really lucky with that. So thank goodness, fingers crossed. That's something to be so grateful for.
Just 19 years old, Maddie Russo, the straight-A college student, was facing the fight of her life.
They found a mass on my pancreas, and I had stage 2 pancreatic cancer at just 19 years old.
I can't get ready. I just lay in my bed and puke, and it's just extremely physically exhausting, but also the mental part of it.
It's kind of been a little eventful week. In the cancer world, eventful is not good. I'd rather have an uneventful week because it means you're kind of just coasting along. But
Maddie found comfort in sharing her story with others on TikTok.
I know it's kind of helped me to talk through it and kind of hear myself, so I hope it helps you guys as well.
Maddie shared her ups and downs of her battle with pancreatic cancer. She bonded with many other cancer patients as they shared their stories with each other.
So finally I got labs taken, and my lab results came back yesterday afternoon, and it showed that my ANC and white blood counts, those two run together, was really low, and it's most likely coming off of the chemo from last week. And then, your immune system is so weak because you have no immune system when you're going through treatment. So then I have a fever. I am so much more than these awful diseases. And instead, it's just another chapter to my story.
Even though Maddie was facing obstacles nobody should have to go through, she still did everything with a smile on her face, and she shared her journey on TikTok.
10 years old, he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, which is a chronic autoimmune disease where the pancreas no longer produces insulin on its own. With this being said, I was also tested to see if I would develop type 1 diabetes and see if I was positive for any of the antibodies. So when the test came back, I ended up being positive for all 5 out of 5 antibodies. And in February of 2020, I was also diagnosed with type 1 at 17 years old. Fast forward to February of 2022, I had yearly lab work done just with my primary care provider as a standard checkup. And aside from starting to feel just a little bit off, my lab work came back and my white blood cell counts were not in normal range. So further testing was then done. And on February 10th of 2022, quite possibly the worst day of my life occurred. I got the call from my oncologist and they found a mass on my pancreas, and I had stage 2 pancreatic cancer at just 19 years old. Scared is an understatement. I was terrified, and I definitely still am.
Social media followers were so inspired by Maddie's story that when she opened a GoFundMe, all the donations started pouring in to help her with her treatment. It was very clear that she had the support of everyone around her.
It's the small victories that we're counting, and I'm thankful for that. And hopefully I can have a few more good days. Starting round 9 of chemo, and I've done over 50 rounds of radiation. So that is where I even started chemo. I harvested my eggs with the OBGYN. And basically it's just you're kind of freezing your eggs. It's just I just have different mixed emotions, and with my hair and stuff like that, that's obviously a big fear. Obviously as a girl, it's girls, hair is a big part of everybody's lives, but to think of the potential of losing it or
it's just kind of one more thing in the fire that is hard. So
As Maddie documented her journey on TikTok, people began to get suspicious of the things she was posting.
I mean, I'm just keeping it real. It's days like these that are hard, and I try my best to stay positive and think that, after my week of chemo is done, after, round 3 is done, and I get, a break until the next round of chemo. But sometimes it's hard to think like that when you're in so much pain and discomfort, and everything is just going the wrong way. And
She posted a photo of her chemo port that looked very sloppily taped on with Scotch tape, not medical tape. The photo on the screen is how a medical port should look versus how Maddie's looks. Maddie also posted herself with the feeding tube. The issue with that is that the very end of the feeding tube was hanging out of her nose when it should have been down in her stomach. After all, it was kind of unusual to see someone looking so healthy and being so sick on the inside.
After finding out, I started treatment right away, consisting of oral chemo and radiation. So far, I have completed 8 rounds of chemo and over 50 rounds of radiation. And then at my 3-month scan, I was informed that the tumor on my pancreas was shrinking and it was responding to treatment. However, it's also spread to my blood and is acute lymphoblastic leukemia. There is a mental health crisis in America right now, and I want to touch on the impact that cancer and chronic disease patients can go through. When your life changes in an instant and many days are spent vomiting, in pain, and being restricted with what you can do, your mind's sick. It's a very lonely and isolating disease. So please don't take for granted enjoying every moment in your life, even the little ones. Please check in on your friends that seem strong, as those people are often the ones that are struggling the most. They appear like they carry it well, however, they are being weighed down. If you look at me, you would never know that I am sick. I still have hair, I can put on makeup to hide the exhaustion and the pain, and I carry myself fairly well at work and school. I want you to know that invisible illness affects so many people across the globe. You could look at somebody from the outside and think they look healthy, but you don't see that inside their body is literally trying to destroy them. I have been honored to speak to my school about my experience of battling cancer, still finishing out my semester with a 3.85 GPA and landing an internship with one of my dream companies, John Deere, all while taking treatment. Advocating for other patients and inspiring individuals along the way has been a coping mechanism for me, and I hope this story has inspired you as well. When you get knocked down 9 times up, you stand up 10 more times. Every single day, I go to war with myself because in order to survive, I have to fight like hell. The 5-year outlook of survival is a slim 11%. 11%. At 19 years old, I don't know if I will live to see the day when I graduate college, get married, become a mom, etc. So in the meantime, I fight. I have to be so mentally tough to battle this beast. I might have bad moments of weakness from time to time, but I never give in. You don't have to struggle in silence. Lean on friends and family. Experiencing these obstacles at such a young age has given me incredible drive, determination, and grit. Type 1 diabetes does not define me. Pancreatic cancer does not define me. Leukemia does not define me. I am so much more than these awful diseases, and instead, it's just another chapter to my story. I will continue to thrive in school, thrive in my career, and thrive in my personal development. I will be able to walk across the stage at my college graduation, able to get married and become a mom. I just have to continue to fight and advocate for a cure. And I will ring the bell and be declared cancer-free someday.
My body is fighting so hard every minute just to stay alive.
As suspicion increased, people also found out that Maddie had stolen photos from other medical patients and posted them as her own. They found this out by reverse Google searching the images. Maddie even showed a sink full of hair. She acted like it had fallen out, but it was clearly cut.
But you don't have to be a hairstylist to realize that hair is cut. Like, that's just a home haircut. Also, Maddie has very long hair, and she makes posts talking about how she keeps her hair. So why is there hair in the sink?
Biotin, collagen, and keratin are crucial vitamins that are shown to help with hair, skin, and nail growth.
She also said that she was taking biotin to prevent her hair loss. Biotin is a protein that helps your hair grow. Chemo kills your cells that produce your hair. Biotin's not gonna help that.
No substances in the tubing, and those look like cotton balls.
Maddie's GoFundMe raised $37,000. As the inconsistencies stacked up, Maddie didn't know it, but soon she was going to be in a lot of trouble. Medical professionals who had seen Maddie's stories on TikTok went to the authorities with their concerns. The police started investigating Maddie's medical records. Although they did find out she was a patient at the hospital, she claimed she did not ever have cancer or a tumor.
She not only claimed to have pancreatic cancer, but leukemia and a tumor on her spine the size of a football.
Maddie was arrested outside of her classroom for theft by means of deception. There are many people that donated to the GoFundMe that were extremely upset when they found out the circumstances.
Those donors, Lou Frillman, who lives in Seattle and Minneapolis.
She was consistently posting on LinkedIn. I thought she had passed away.
Frillman donated $500 to Maddie's fight against pancreatic cancer.
I never imagined someone so callously would fake they had such a devastating cancer as pancreatic cancer and willingly accept our gift of love and kindness and lie directly to my face. My heart was broken in disbelief.
GoFundMe is guaranteeing a full refund to donors and say they have a zero-tolerance policy for misuse of their platform.
I see little about your background that would indicate that you had not learned any better growing up, nor did I see any dire need for money. There was no substance abuse, no drug addiction. I think it is appropriate to briefly summarize the facts. On February 10, 2022, you began an elaborate scheme which involved you supposedly having pancreatic cancer and acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Through this scheme, you deceived your friends, your family, your community, other cancer victims, charities, and strangers who were motivated by your supposedly tragic story to donate to you to help support you through your disease. Most of these donations went into a GoFundMe account. Your scheme continued for a very lengthy period of time. You raised in excess of $39,000 from over 400 donors. I learned today that with Ms. Oles and her foundation, you appeared in person in support of this charade.
Not only did Maddie deceive her friends and family, she also deceived the people that she befriended. She would talk to them and they would tell her about their diagnoses, and she would take their symptoms and diagnosis on as her own.
You spoke to actual cancer groups. You made many appearances, public and on social media, to push your fraudulent scheme. At any step along that way, you could have stopped. You could have stopped. It did not stop until you were caught. This issue came to light when in January 11, 2023, 3 medical professionals reported medical inconsistencies in your story to the Eldridge Police Department. The Eldridge Police Department worked extensively with those medical professionals to discover inconsistencies with your story of you having cancer and leukemia. They investigated your social media posts, your interviews, your news stories, and other sources. Many medical inconsistencies were discovered. It was discovered that you had adopted or essentially parroted and used as your own other cancer patients' stories. Search warrants were applied for and granted, and your home was searched, and it was discovered that you had things to support your fake cancer claims, such as a wig, IV bags filled with cotton balls, feeding pumps, wound dressings, and other medical equipment. It's just hard for me to fathom what was going through your mind while you were making yourself up and using a fake IV or using to photograph yourself or fake bandages. It's hard to imagine what was going through your mind. After your arrest, to your credit, you were interviewed and admitted to not having cancer, not having a tumor that wrapped around your spine, and admitted to taking staged photographs of yourself to spread your story, and admitted to using other actual cancer patients' stories as pictures of you. You also admitted to receiving private donations that you would deposit in your checking account separate from the GoFundMe account. It is absolutely clear to the court that you engaged in a lengthy course of deceit. Today, you indicate, my initial reaction, quite frankly, was this lengthy course of deceit was motivated by greed or perhaps social media fame.
I didn't do this for money or greed. I didn't do this for attention. I did this in an attempt to try and get my family back together. I come from an extremely broken and separated family ever since I was 2 years old. Over the years, it has gotten steadily worse, and a lot has happened internally to our family. A family is supposed to be one that's drawn together, not drift further and further apart. I was always told that, quote, I was the only one that could fix it, and I have tried for years. Nothing was working, and I kept pulling for everybody to be a normal, functioning, loving, supportive family. I thought if I said what I said, it would make everybody pull together. I didn't do this for money or greed. I didn't do this for attention. I did this in an attempt to try and get my family back together.
Maddie Russo received 3 years of probation, which includes restitution and community service. Suspended sentence. That means Russo would spend 10 years in prison if she commits another crime while on probation, does not pay back about $39,000, or does not complete her 100 hours of community service. Russo initially asked for a deferred sentence in a plea agreement, which would not appear on her criminal record after a length of time.
Maddie Russo hurt a lot of people, not just her friends and family, but the strangers that were kind enough to help her in what they thought was her time of need. The amount of pain they must feel knowing that all their conversations weren't out of care or concern, but so she could deceive others. I myself think her punishment is far too lenient for all the pain that she caused people. This wasn't just a one-time lapse of judgment. She repeatedly lied over and over and over again. I think Maddie got off it extremely easy, but she will forever be known as the girl that faked cancer.